Hey guys, welcome to Ceasefire. I'm Caleb,
I'm John.
and this is the podcast where we talk about the tabletop games we play and our gripes about them and the things we like about them. And today we're going to be bringing you uh, the terrain from Warhammer 40k. We're going to be talking about how we feel about it, the changes from ninth to 10th, what we like, what we don't like, and our overall feelings. And we'll definitely be getting into the GW terrain layouts and covering those with you guys and really discussing how we feel about them. So, John, if you want to talk about maybe a little bit of the difference between ninth and 10th edition layouts.
So for ninth edition, we did a lot of player place train for tournaments, and I think tournaments are still kind of going towards the player place train, to be honest with you, because these GW ones don't have any measurements and very hard to replicate if you don't have all GW train. So yeah, for ninth edition, a lot of the train differences come with the little powers, not powers,
The
rules that
keywords.
the keywords that would come on your train, and that was almost different for every different piece of terrain. So like it was very specific. Like trees had something, barricades had something, crates had something. Like you'd have a bunch of
And
different keywords on one thing, and it from one tournament to another, the keywords could change. So like a crate might have uh, X on one, or like two things on one at one tournament, and the other one would only have one, depending.
yeah. And they were it in ninth edition it felt like terrain played a very big part in why the game took so long because you had to discuss that, like especially at the beginning of every game, of like, hey, what are these gonna have? Are they gonna have the normal ones? What do you want to put on them? Like with ruins and stuff like that, did you want them breachable? Did you want them to be um, obscuring and stuff like that, depending on how high they were? Especially a big change is trees. So in ninth edition, a lot of dense ground and stuff like that gave you -2 to move, gave you -1 to shoot through it. That's all gone now. And
It
I
is.
think that's an amazing thing to see gotten rid of.
Yeah, it makes the slow armies slower, which causes bigger issues. Now, I think there was a game of skill with that. Like as you place your train, use it wisely. Like put the things that can harm movement in places to try to bottleneck your opponent, because they're going to try to avoid that, especially since it was a -2 inches, and that could be like almost half your movement
And it's
for some
-2 inches
armies.
to your movement and charge distance.
Correct.
So it is a big hit in the dick for a lot of armies. Like, what's nice though, back then, Death Guard didn't have to worry about that because they got to ignore all that because of something movement there, whatever their rule was, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, like you still had like slower units like termies. Once a termy felt bad, what is
yeah,
it
5 inch movement down to a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's rough. It's real rough. But yeah, that's one change I'm really happy for, that is gone. Don't ever have to see that again. It can be thrown in the trash. And another thing, that -1 to hit, thank God that's gone.
yes, the -1 to hit, because it's stackable too. I think that was the worst part about it. Like, sure you get it once, but you could technically get it twice if you shot through, depending on how it was stacked. Uh,
Yeah, you could, if you shot through two different trees, or a trees and a really high, whatever those the GW's like walkway things are. Yeah,
correct.
you can eat the -2. Yeah, you'd only get -1, but if you had a -1 +1, you're eating the -1 through that.
Yeah, which is very big for a lot of shooting armies.
Yep.
And usually you'd hand out a buff that was like a +1, but that's like you're very limited back then, was giving out buffs like that uh,
Yeah.
for the +1s, if that makes any sense, because they toned that down from eighth to ninth, in my opinion.
Yeah, they definitely they toned down. I feel like just in general in 10th edition they've toned down terrain a lot. The only thing that I'm really not liking right now about it is the not being, if your base doesn't fully fit on a piece of terrain, you can't stand on it.
Yep,
I find that really really stupid.
that's a new rule.
And
I don't think they
yes,
had that. I think seventh. It's always for a long time. It's been as long as it can not fall over, you're good.
correct. We had wobbly model, the wobbly model rule. That's hard to say. And now that they decided to just get rid of that completely, um, it's made a lot of standing models, especially ruins that have like broken up floors and stuff like that, especially for a lot of our terrain. it makes it really hard to stand on anything that's not the first floor.
I would say even GW train. A lot of their train has the broken up floors, so it's like, do you count the like crack in between as part of the like hole, or do you not? And like, when do you start counting it? Like, is it like a half an inch?
Yeah,
Or is
yeah.
it
What distance
more?
do you start counting it? I don't in stuff like that. I don't think there's. I don't think you should. I think you should just be able to stand across it. But like when we get into the GW's train layout, we can actually point to some of the things that they model it on their terrain pieces that it looks like there's supposed to be a gap.
Correct. Oh yeah.
And so I would assume those would be uh, needed to where you can't stand in between those.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my
Sure.
feelings on these specifically, I really like that they're going to a standardized map layout. So every mission has a certain maps that you can play it with, and then certain missions that get played on those maps, which is awesome. I love the standardization. They don't have measurements, so we don't know how big any of this is. We have to scale it ourselves. And then it's really hard to actually get the terrain to look like this, especially if you're not using just GW's terrain.
Correct. Even like some of these, I think, are old kits too, like that they don't sell anymore. So like, I haven't seen a kit like this unless like they just put like a ruined wall in between it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sold in a while. And like the helicopter pad, which is a big square, I don't think I see it on this one. But like this is two ruined walls shoved right next to each other, right?
Yeah.
But like, what's this? I don't think I've seen this.
Yeah, that's
in
not a
any of
terrain
their
piece
recent
I know
ones.
of.
Yeah, unless it's like two ruined walls slapped right next to each other.
Yeah, it could be. It could be the two of the smaller ruined walls.
Yeah. Like that. What we were pointing at is like a T intersection, and then like two big buildings with a wall touching between them. But like that's just a wall, no upper floors.
Yeah, there's quite a few things, and then especially with how GW is slanting a lot of their terrain right now, like it's gonna be hard to truly position all this stuff correctly. And now it is essential you have bases for your
Correct.
terrain pieces.
Well, it's always been essential to have bases, I think. So like
Well,
last edition, if we didn't have a base, obscuring went to the base. So like playing at tournaments in the last edition, that base mattered a lot for obscuring. And yes, you would talk with your opponent. Does it count towards the base or not towards the base? You had to make sure, clarify, so that way no one was in the wrong there. And it makes a big difference. I think having a smaller piece of terrain with a base was basically the go-to. Personally.
Yeah. I mean, it especially with like there's a lot of cool things you can do with trains that have bases, because if you have the bases on them, you can have, yeah, like you said, a small piece of train that has a bigger base that you can get obscuring behind. And with that, it allows you more coverage, but you don't have as much moving problems as you do with if you're going to use actual big pieces of terrain.
So this is how I think they thought this through. If you had train that was just as big as the space that we're currently seeing on Train 1 layout for Warhammer, so if those who don't have the video, there's almost no way for a knight to get to the center of the board. And I would say about 80% of the missions, there's a center objective.
I think is it not every mission?
I think there's a couple that don't have it in every mission.
Because every map's a 5-point map now, isn't it?
Correct, but I think there's one setup that has one in the like left corner, and then another one in the top corner, or it might be in the center. Yeah,
I think every map has a center objective, and I do feel like every terrain layout surrounds the center.
yeah,
Like there's no terrain layout that isn't hard to get to that center. Like if those bases were just buildings, knights would never be able to get to those centers. No vehicles really either.
correct.
And so yeah, those bases are very, very important now. I do like how much cover these maps are giving you, but if you do notice, they don't use trees.
Or crates.
Yep, no trees, no crates, and I
Barricades, pipes. Where are they at?
yeah, they have none of it, and I don't know why.
Yep, it's only ruins, and I think they did that mainly because I don't think the pipes, barricades, and crates fit well on a board. To be honest with you.
I think they're more for looks than they are for effects.
Correct. I think you should always experiment with 2 sets of crates on the board because 2 sets of crates can easily change. Like if you count it as a ruin, but you can't move through it. You know what I mean? Type of
Yeah,
ruin.
it's not breachable.
But it has a base for a ruin and it's obscuring. It makes the gameplay way different, and it allows you to use that train that you've already bought or have, just from previous hand-me-downs from other players
or like us when we were first starting out playing with tissue boxes and stuff like that.
100%.
It's important that those things have the ability, especially if you're using a solid object, you can't really put anything on the bottom floor of that unless you guys want to put something on top of it, or something like that. It's important that you can't move through them, and you have that flexibility on these maps to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say, I do like how it seems like they're doing 4 bigger ruins for every quadrant,
mm-hmm.
and then just squishing things towards the center. That feels pretty good. I have yet to play a map that's felt actually bad for the terrain.
Yeah, I would say the layout itself was thought through. It has definitely been played on and tested when they gave it to us. There's only 4, and we're only on the number 1. So they didn't.
So if you want to scroll down to the next one, you can.
Yeah, they didn't extensively test a bunch of these, or if they did, they knocked a lot of them out and went with the best 4. But I don't know.
I will say the biggest thing, another thing that these things really lack, these are first and second floor buildings only. From what we can see, there's no third floors, and they added a new rule which I think is really cool: the plunging fire. That if you're on anything that's 6 inches or higher, shooting downwards, you get an extra AP. So I don't know if they designed it for any of these to have that, or if you are just stuck on first floor, second floor. Because if you're playing where your first floor is 6 inches up or higher, I think you're playing wrong, because you need to have that first floor to be at least 5 inches or lower, so that way you can charge that first floor.
Yeah, just some quality nitpicks too on the map that they gave us. Some of the objects that they have put next to each other aren't pixel aligned. It's starting to bother me now that we blew these guys up. Normally I look at these
they're
smaller.
Not.
Yeah, I normally look at these much smaller. So that bothers the crap out of me, actually.
Yeah, that's their drawing is not the best apparently, but yeah.
I'm sure they were using paint or something and then copy and paste.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does look like, though, on this train layout, the 2 boxes on the edges, those do look like crates.
See, but how do you know they're crates? Because their guide that they gave us, anything in that blue is a ruin.
Oh, is it? Is that what they...
Yes.
Okay, well... Yeah.
So that's the only key they gave us. So it's blue is ruin, the actual set. So there should be a floor there. It could be a solid, there is no way to get to the bottom floor. Ruin, but it should be a building of some sort. And then the base of the train, which is the dotted line with dark gray. The dotted line that are circle dots is just the marking out the 4 quadrants with the crosshair in the center.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like overall GW has done really well with terrain. This edition, I like the fact that it's nowhere near as complicated. That the obscuring actually makes a huge difference now. Whereas last edition, you kind of wanted just really big ruins just to hide behind. This edition, you don't need those really big ruins to do that, because you don't have to have a certain height requirement on them.
Mm-hmm.
You can really diversify your maps to make them look how you want and still play relatively fairly.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think a lot of people are still trying to experiment with is the towering keyword and the map layouts, with people not really running a lot of third floors.
Correct. So like the since there is no requirement for third floors from the GW layouts, which I think there should be, uh, it gives towering a very big advantage, almost to the point where it's not fun to play against. Because like, oh, I'm just gonna if you play a towering unit, then that shoots everything. Like if I played 2 Townars, so I could make Caleb and Mason very sad by playing just 2 Townars all the time, and be like, all right, I shoot everything.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
because like there's no way to hide unless you're hiding in like the corner of a ruin, but then you're not doing anything with that. It's like the moment you pop out, I would be like, hello.
And that's another thing that the terrain now really, you guys really need to model your terrain correctly because with windows being boarded up, as because GW's rule is all windows on the bottom floor boarded up, correct?
I believe they said to have all windows boarded up. Period.
All windows in period.
I believe that's what the statement was.
And that makes bottom it so if you're gonna actually truly board up every window, it makes a lot of terrain pieces first off unusable because you can't shoot through anything, like, and being up on second, third floor isn't gonna do anything for you.
Yep.
Whereas if you model them correctly to where some of them are boarded up on one side and they're open on others, and you truly leave it up to how the building is modeled, there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages you can do for like how you're going to play with those terrain pieces, and it makes the game so much more complicated in a good way because it makes you strategize.
Yeah, I really love some of our train pieces that we have. It's like I kind of want to board up some extra windows. Like, so when we went to tournaments, they had like one side of a building completely boarded up, but the everything else was open. So like depending on how you place that building, because there was a ruined area to get in on one side, and then there's like the rest of it was all walled off. So like it was like a U, if that makes any sense. And but like one side was completely boarded up. So like even though you might want to put the U towards you, so that way you can enter with tanks and whatnot, but the boarded window might have been in the front, so like you can't really see out of it in ninth edition.
Yep.
So like that is big for 10th as well, and just playing with that changes the name of the game.
Yeah,
100%.
you create in 10th edition. It creates a lot of magic boxes, as we like to call them, to where you can't shoot in, you can't shoot out. You're just stuck there.
And that's something I see that they kind of fixed with their train layouts. None of them have a back to it, right? None of
Correct.
their
I don't think,
ruins have a back, so they're always open on one side.
except for on this one specifically, those 2 little boxes.
You mean right here?
No, the 2 in the left and right side. They're
Oh,
just all they are.
yes.
They're just the squares. They look like just completely closed ruins.
I don't think a single GW ever sold a completely closed ruin. So I'm assuming there's an opening. They just don't show us which way it's supposed to open. Is it opening towards the middle? Is it opening towards the back? Probably the back, I would have to assume. But
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it could be left up to interpretation on those. It could just be a closed box.
yeah, because like a lot of ITC train, they used to play with closed boxes. So that could
Yep.
be straight up just a closed box, and you can get on the roof or you can pass through it, but you can't be in it.
Yep, and it makes and that's why one of the patches that just recently came through of the points increases on the indirect fire is so big, is because with the way the terrain is laid out right now, you need indirect fire to be able to take things off points and to be able to do what you need to do for the specific reason of those magic boxes.
I would say Eldar doesn't need that direct fire, personally. After playing against them once. They have a decent amount of mobility.
Well, if it's a truly closed box, and the only way to get into it is charging through it, you need the indirect fire to be able to shoot them at all.
Oh, fair. Hopefully there's no points in there.
Because especially now, you have to be fully within the terrain feature to shoot.
Mhm.
So you can't have half of your models in and have everything shoot. You have to be fully within.
It's model by model case.
Is it model by model?
Yes. So like a tank has to be fully within because it's one singular model. But if you had one guy fully in, it can shoot out.
That model can shoot. Okay.
Correct.
So it just makes positioning for all that really important on how you're going to get your guys.
Cover comes down to a model.
Cover is model by model, and line of sight is model by model.
Correct. The old edition didn't have that. It used to be, I believe, was it unit by unit, right? Or was it still model by model?
Nope, it was unit by unit, but cover was model by model.
Cover was still model by model. Okay.
Yep. You could have that's what you could tow some things into cover, and you'd have to take from them if you're actually going to increase that save or not. But
That's right. Yeah, they got rid of the toe touch. Fully in, or either be fully in or don't be in at all.
yep, and I like that clarity somewhat. I don't like it for vehicles because it makes buildings feel really, really hard to get into with vehicles to be able to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be 50% of the vehicle. If 50% of the vehicle's inside, they can shoot through it. But then you get into discussions of is that 50% of the vehicle or not. But
I'd say just the base of the vehicle, right?
well, so most vehicles don't have bases.
Not Space Marine ones. All
And
the
then you
flying ones do.
Yeah, all the flying ones do, but like rhinos don't, and especially now that rhinos have open top too, which
That's fair.
is bonkers. It makes the shooting out of them actually really important. So
It does, because you get those heavy weapons.
Yep, you get heavy weapons, or you get some really good flamers like Death Guard. Because you can listen, guys. Cool trick. You can have your psychers in your vehicles
And shoot.
Shoot, have it hazards, and the rhino takes those wounds, not the guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes hazardous really cool inside of vehicles, especially with like the Death Guard flamer. He just pop. He runs up inside of a vehicle, casts out of it his flamer, doing a ton of damage and being completely safe on his own. Oh, I rolled my hazardous roll. The rhino takes 3 mortal wounds. Oh well.
That's the
Who
plague
really
class,
cares?
right?
Huh?
That's the plague plague caster, right?
Yep, the plague caster. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really cool, and you can do some really interesting things with that. I thought transports were going to be a bit more of a big deal this edition, with most of them having some sort of open top, but I still feel like most armies don't use them like at all.
Yep. I feel like it's used in Tau. You'll see it in Tau lists. You'll see it in Eldar lists.
The really fast moving armies will use them.
Yep. And then I think Sisters as well.
Really?
Yes, I think. Or if I can't remember correctly, it's not Sisters, because it either went from good to was either bad, or it went from bad to worse. I can't remember.
I will say, orcs also use them because trucks being 50 points is insane.
Yep. No more gas coal in a truck though.
Yes, they did. They did FAQ that. Makes me sad, but kind of knew it was coming. There's only one way to transport gas.
Yeah.
But I do like how GW has come across, but they have four of their different layouts. All of them feel very different from each other too in the way they play.
And they went through and checked if it was playable on certain missions for mission combos. So like certain missions don't have like layout 3, or some of them don't have layout 2 type thing.
Yep, and that's specifically for deployment zones and for where the objectives actually are, correct?
Correct.
And I definitely feel like they've actually balanced these out pretty well with those selected missions. And when I say balance it out, it doesn't feel like one side of the map has an advantage over the other. These are very symmetrical. In most cases, like in this one specifically, this isn't technically fully symmetrical, which I don't know if that's a misprint or not.
What's not fully symmetrical? Oh, I see that. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Straight on the top. I'm just blind.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's. I think that might just be a misprint.
Yeah, that looks like a copy paste error.
But
it's not even aligned.
I think that's the only one that's wrong.
Correct. I think almost all of them are symmetrical, and so it doesn't really matter about which side you get, unless you're placing objectives, which is absolutely brutal for some of these map combos. So like, Mason and I found out through tournaments that they are the middle one gets always placed to the middle. So that way someone doesn't get an extra placement.
That makes sense.
Makes it nice and fair. So you each get 2 placements rather than trying to stack aside. Now, if you go check out the game that Mason and I played, I ended up setting up 3 on my side before we knew about this, and Mason set up 2 on his side, and then when we rolled for who gets to choose what side, Mason chose my side. I chose 3 on.
And I'm sure that didn't end the greatest for you.
You gotta go check out the video. It was actually a stellar game.
Really? Well, good. But yeah, if you want to jump to Terrain Layout 4, so just so I can see it, but for the people listening, check out the YouTube channel so you can actually see what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, we try to use our terrain and set it up as close as possible to these layouts. Now it's not quite the same.
It's really hard to do.
And I think we will switch it up every now and then. So like we've been doing this for a while, and we'll probably do it until we hit every single mission pack, and then maybe we'll play some player place terrain again.
Yeah, and just have some good old tournament fun with some player placed. I'm sure when we do our next tournament, in-house tournament again, we'll be doing player placed for that.
Yeah, we'll be looking at what the most current tournaments are doing and try to follow suit. So if they're either following this guide, have their own guide, we might go with that guide instead. Or, yeah, just figure out what the most competitive players are playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so we can keep our content as updated for you guys as possible, and we want to be bringing you truly the most tournament ready you can be by watching us. So that way when you guys go into it, you know what to expect, like how are these missions going to play and everything like that, and how are these armies going to play, even though we may not be the best at piloting the armies, but we do our best and try to run the most competitive lists in those circumstances for you guys.
I will say, Terrain Layout 4 is the hardest to set up.
Oh yeah, by far.
It has
we have another issue with whether or not this is symmetrical or not.
Do we?
Yeah, in the deployment zone, I think it's the same square, but the one in the top right corner is spaced out further.
Spaced out further. Oh yeah, I see it now. I think it's supposed to be the same, and the box got.
And both,
screwed.
yeah, I think so too. I think it's GW. They make mistakes in their books all the time. They could do better.
Well, this is a PDF. This was a free PDF for everyone. So if you're looking for this PDF where we're getting these terrain layouts, go ahead and go to the Warhammer community, and at the bottom of the page, if you're sorting alphabetically, there should
underneath the miscellaneous section.
Yeah, there should be Leviathan tournament pack, right?
I think it's Leviathan tournament pack, and all these are in there, along with how you should do pairings and rankings and stuff like that.
Correct. And any FAQs to any of our Leviathan cards, which if you haven't seen, do make sure you fix it for your games.
Yeah, if you're playing competitively, make sure you fix, because the deploy servo skulls, deploy teleport homers, and behind enemy lines, all 3 got changed, and all that changed was the victory points on them, I believe.
The
servo skulls is different.
Yeah, that's so that way you can't move multiple things all at the same time. So even if you're not playing competitively, I highly suggest always updating to the FAQs. It just keeps it nice and balanced.
Yep, I would agree on that.
Unless it doesn't, and then that will be a different conversation on a different day.
Yes, it will. So I want to thank you guys for coming and watching and listening to this one if you're on Spotify or anything like that. We're here every week. If you guys want to come back and join, or if you guys want to go to our YouTube channel, Basement Battles, where we play all of our games live, and most of them live. Some of them are recordings. We stream every Sunday, and we drop our podcast every Wednesday. So thanks, guys, for listening. Have a good one.
Bye.